I find it very hard to judge someone else for their actions when you've never actually done the job yourself. So I think that should be a requirement. You should have a certain amount of field time, actual police work, before you can go investigate other police officers. I think that would be number one. I've gotten to where I'm at is just through a die-hard perseverance. You know, motivation comes and goes. Discipline is what carries you through, and perseverance is what wins the day. You know, a lot of times I want to promote, I want to do this, and just enjoy being a cop, man. You're a cop with the greatest law enforcement agency that the world has known.
Welcome back to the IA Guy, a police podcast here. We're your host, Marlon Marachi. Another special guest, LAPD is back in the house, Code 6. But before we get to know Chris, because we were partners, we'll leave it at that. I just got to ask you right off the top, you had a little bit of somewhat of a acting career before you actually started, right? Am I wrong, or did we try to pilot for a show, or what's going on?
Yeah, I was in a pilot for a cheesy cop show in the 90s called Border Patrol with John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard. And needless to say, I kind of went to the Lorenzo Lamas Renegade School of Acting where I suck, dude. I suck so bad, so I had to figure out, hey, you're going to have to figure out another career path. So, yeah, it was brief, but yeah.
Thanks for coming, bro. I really appreciate you. You and I have been talking quite some time. Yeah. You know, we were both working together at some time, where of course we have a mutual friend in common. But before we get into all this internal affairs stuff, because I know you've been checking me out and I've been checking your stuff out, we are going to talk about your brand. We're going to talk about what you're doing. But let's talk a little bit about this journey, man. So I know you're from Missouri, right?
Yeah.
Originally?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Missouri. You know, just going back, like there's not a lot of opportunity coming from a small town. And so Los Angeles to me was always a dream.
Okay.
And you watch the television shows and pretty much everything from Chips, you know, when we're growing up, to everything was filmed here. And it was always a place I wanted to live. And, you know, even watching reruns of Adam 12, there was something about the Los Angeles Police Department that just sets itself, it's just different. And there was that degree of professionalism, uniform appearance, command presence that LAPD officers commanded that I just fell in love with. And, you know, so whatever we talk about today about IA and everything else, I just want to start by saying I'm so grateful to have been able to call myself a Los Angeles police officer. You know, no matter what else I do in life, it will be my greatest accomplishment. I've made lifelong friends, and I really, really am proud of you, and I appreciate you having me in. I really love seeing coppers do other things. Yeah. So we can be experts in our chosen field in law enforcement. That's right. But it's really, really awesome to see entrepreneurs, and because cops are really, really smart.
Yes.
And they're, you know, they're persistent, and they can succeed in anything they want to do during their careers and after. So.
Yeah, you know what? And I appreciate that. I will say, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me, that LAPD has afforded me and you so much success, so much knowledge, and a wealth of friendships.
Exactly.
You know, that we're going to take all the way to the grave. Chris, let me ask you this. So here we are in the academy. Shout out to 7B 2002, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Shout out to your classmates out there. I'm sure there's still some.
A lot are still there, man. Yeah. 7B.
Let me ask you this. So here you are in the academy, and of course, let's get into this IA stuff, because let's get that and knock it out of the way. Did anyone from internal affairs make it to do a presentation in the academy? If so, what was your impression of internal affairs, if any, right back then, compare to your impression of internal affairs today, as we're having this conversation? Has it changed, and if so, how?
Well, you know, I don't recall anyone from IA coming in and giving a presentation, although I do think it would be valuable, obviously. You know, like I said, love the LAPD, but one of the things that you're kind of instilled with from day one is to fear the man. And even if you're not doing anything wrong, you kind of live in this, it's what I call a culture of fear that they kind of instill in you right away. So I wasn't scared of going to work on the streets. I wasn't scared of going to radio calls. I mean, obviously you have times when you are
Of course.
frightened in, high stress incidents, but I was more scared of the department. Not that I was doing anything wrong, dude.
Right.
It's just that, you hear all these stories throughout your career. Hey, this guy went through this, the department did this to him because a commander or deputy chief has a personal vendetta against him.
Yeah.
So I always viewed it as, they could try to get you at any time. Now I was fortunate to never take a bad day off. I never, had anything sustained. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but like I said, it's just that's where the most stress from this job comes from is when you get those calls,
Well, you definitely saved yourself from a good IA story because you never had one. But what I will say is that who are we to blame, or who do we hold accountable for instilling this fear tactics from day one? What do you think?
I don't know. I maybe it's just a culture thing, and it's obviously the rumor mill gets going. Recruits talk, and a lot of people have family on the job, and they you tell these stories, and I think it's just something subconsciously that sinks in.
Yeah.
And by the time you're a P2, like you're kind of leery of what could happen to you, man. And that's just how it operates. I really don't know how to change that.
Right. I would say that it probably is very challenging to change culture, right? Culture dictates what you do, and then for most cases, what you don't do.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those things where we're sitting here in 2025, and we still have this negative stigma attached to internal affairs, which is probably one of the reasons why I decided to launch an internal affairs podcast, because this is a topic that's very taboo. Not many people talk about. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, and not a lot of people know about. You take the average police officer, they're just getting interviewed for 128 or something.
Yeah.
They have very limited knowledge of what actually goes on there. Like I don't know how those investigations work, but I know some of them can be very biased, and so that's, like I said, I don't know what the remedy is. I'm that's not my field of expertise, but I do think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. Well, let's talk about investigating, because you were an investigator the majority part of your career. Would that be fair to say?
That's fair to say, yeah.
If put you in a room full of sergeants today, right now, in a podium, and they're getting ready to begin their tour as investigators in internal affairs, what's the one thing you want them to know about that job? What do you think?
To know about that job, I don't know, but to know about police work, I think there's one of the things that a department this size affords somebody is they can come out of the academy, do their probation, and pretty much go in the building. And you never actually have true experience as a police officer. So I find it very hard to judge someone else for their actions when you've never actually done the job yourself. So I think that should be a requirement. You should have a certain amount of field time, actual police work, before you can go investigate other police officers.
Yeah.
I think that would be number one.
Right. And in terms of just investigative techniques, any suggestion or any advice that you have, considering you've worked some really, really good investigations?
Just like you and I had spoken about before, it's, I just don't think that interview should be the tell-all. If there's follow-up questions to be done, if there's follow-up interviews to be done, when you're talking about somebody's career, that should be the highest level of importance. You're talking about someone's livelihood, their reputation within the organization. You have to devote everything you can to that investigation for that officer's, just like I said, for their livelihood. So that's one thing I would say. Don't rush to judgment. If somebody makes a statement that you deem as false, that needs to be investigated to all ends.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we were having that conversation, and lately in my mind I've been thinking about how, and you can relate to this, investigators, detectives, whichever you want to call them, have this unique set of skills or strategies, right? Where you're trying to obtain a false confession. In other words, you walk into that murder suspect or that robbery suspect, sex predator, RICO, type of case, and that all the evidence you have, you are somehow, some way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're gonna just put it out on the table, but you're gonna try to get them to confess to it, right? And so I always wonder if we do that with suspects, why aren't we not doing it to our own? Especially if we're talking about, you've heard that quote, you lie, you die.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree with you. You know, like present everything, and you know the way a normal investigator, a normal detective would do is you do it in phases, and you see what reactions you're getting. And yeah, in the end, if you're not making any headway, yeah, you show everything you have. You put your cards on the table, and yeah, there's some pressure interrogation techniques that you could use. But yeah, we should do that for police officers as well.
Yeah, well, we don't.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Look, you and I have been talking about a lot of your career. You did 20 years with LAPD. Let me ask you this. What have you learned about yourself in your 20 years as a cop?
So, you know, like I said, I'm grateful for, I think the certain point I was at in life when I actually got hired, you know, I used to lay in bed at night. I'm a nerd, dude. But I used to lay in bed at night, and I wanted to be class president, right? And I wanted to give that speech at my graduation. And I would lay in bed, and I would think about that podium, how that podium would feel, and addressing, you know, the chief and the city council members, and you know, my family, my friends that were in the audience. So it literally changed my life because I was able to fulfill that dream. You know, I was able to give that speech, and what it instilled in me was a certain amount of discipline and perseverance, and the old LAPD adage, flexibility and adaptability. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Everything I've succeeded at, I've had to persevere, severe ups and downs. And it taught me perseverance. It taught me to be flexible and adaptable. If you have to tactically redeploy and come at it at a different angle, do that. And for that, I'm like I said, just the sheer discipline and lifestyle that it instilled in me, I think it's led to my success all throughout business and everything else.
Speaking of assignments, talk to me about this undercover assignment. We don't get many guests that work undercover. What is it that you learned, or how did you actually go about getting to that assignment for anyone that wants to get into, you know, some undercover type of operations?
You know, a lot of things have changed now, but used to me, probably the funnest I've had in my career was working a NED unit, and it was North Hollywood NED.
NED is the Narcotics Enforcement
Detail.
Division.
Yeah, and you just had so much freedom to do what you wanted to do. You worked at the discretion of that captain. So if there was a murder in that division, you're the unit that has the tactical surveillance capability. We would be up on that murder suspect right away. All the way to, you know, like I was telling you, working cartel cases with HSI, packaging informants. There's not a lot that a P2 or a P3 on the job. You know, when you learn how to package informants and use informants, it leads to some really big cases. And you get into things that you never imagined you would be able to do as like I said, a P2 or P3. So it was really, really cool. I worked with a great group of guys. We did so many search warrants. We learned and adapted so many, you know, new tactics and just ways of doing business, standard operating procedures for the way we worked at North Hollywood. So if I had advice for a young P2 or P3, it would be that, to go into a NED unit. But it's all changed now. A lot of them, you know, they're downsized to two officers, and they're just doing illegal weed grows or something like that. It's all changed, but that to me was the funnest time I've had.
Speaking of those times in specific, we always talk about enforcing, you know, laws and being a cop, and you're out there, you know, getting that arrest, getting that felony arrest. Any of these particular cases where you had some success stories at all?
Through investigations, or
yes. I know you don't know, we were talking about an informant that just, you know, you know, kind of turned their life around. I mean, what was that all about?
Well, I've had, I'll be careful about I heard this. I had a source of information come to me one day, late in the afternoon, and gave me some intel about a possible murder of an infant. And it's late in the day. The story was that the baby was killed, the baby was discarded, and that they were the suspect wanted help retrieving the body to relocate to another location. So whether he was scared it was going to be found or what have you. So you know, the first thing you have to do is make sure that that baby actually existed. Right. And through different channels, we were able to, through DCFS and different channels, we were able to verify that there was a baby. And we knew its name. And so the next step is, how are you cooking? You know, it's 4 p.m. I've got like maybe 4 or 5 guys in the squad at the time. How are we going to set up on this tonight and conduct this surveillance, right? Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough to get special flights, and you know, SIS always has a priority ticket, and they weren't working that night, so we were able to get special flights, which without them, we wouldn't have had any success at all.
And special flights is from, you can kind of explain a little bit of that.
That's air support, so it's not they're not normal planes. I don't want to give away the store, but right. They fly at a certain altitude, and they have certain surveillance capabilities that.
It's a special request.
It's a special request, yeah, for special
for the
surveillance jobs, yeah. And so we actually set up on the suspect that evening, and we were able to conduct mobile surveillance. Now, mind you, it's at night, and they made some stops because they were in the meth community. I'll say that, you know. And then they actually went to the mountainous region. I won't say exactly where, but they went to a mountainous region. Now you can imagine you have a mobile surveillance at night going up a mountain road with, you got 6 cars following. You're not going to get very far. You're going to get made pretty quick, right?
Right.
So thank God, like I said, we had special flights. We were able to get a pretty close location where they are because it's pitch black. And after we made initial contact, we were able to discover the location where the infant was buried. And I'll just say this: the baby was actually put into a Rubbermaid container like you buy at Walmart. Mm-hmm. The suspect had made a chemical concoction that he believed would dissolve the body, and then he'd put some ready-made concrete like in the bag on top, and then he'd close the lid on this Rubbermaid thing. And what I always thought was interesting is this lazy piece of shit didn't even bury the whole container. He left about that much of the container sticking out of the ground. And animals that tried to get into the container, you could see the claw marks on the side. And so I thought, you know, like, that right there tells his character. You know what I mean? You don't even have the common decency to completely bury the container. So after it was discovered, we had to stay there for the rest of the night until the next morning when the coroner could come. And so that's kind of the bad thing about that case is no one was ever truly held accountable for what happened to that child. So
was that the end result?
That was the end result. And you know, once he was retrieved, and the baby did have methamphetamine in his bloodstream, but they weren't able to determine a true cause of death because of the decompensation that had occurred. What he actually did, though, is he actually ended up preserving the body more than he would have if he would have just thrown the baby off the side of the mountain. Mm-hmm. An animal would have gotten it, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. Oh. But what he did is he actually preserved it a little bit by making that concoction and putting it in the concrete. So, yeah, that's probably the roughest one, because I kept track of that guy and where he was operating through the valley, and I knew where he was squatting. I was waiting for the day that we were going to be able to put him in prison, and my whole unit was. I mean, we were all deeply invested in this case for the baby. I won't say the baby's name, right? But he's a really little cute baby that never had a chance. Oh. So, yeah, that was probably a really tough one.
It almost sounds like the question I ask all my guests about your worst incident, and I'm sure you're going to come up with another one. But before we get there, here we are. 2 years ago, you retired. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't, different from a lot of your guests. I wasn't looking to retire. It's like I'd started a company, and so I wanted to continue my career. My goal was I worked tactical surveillance apprehension unit when I made detective after I got my table time done. Okay. Out of G&D. I worked at Marshall's Task Force. I worked fugitives, and my goal was to make SIS, to go to SIS, and that was the career goal. But I'd started a company. I'd patented some stuff, some football helmet safety inventions, and I got patented, and my company kind of grew into a lifestyle brand. So I got to the point where I'd had so much invested in the company that I had to make that choice because I was getting up at 3 a.m. Yeah, I was getting up at 3 a.m. I was working overtime, coming home, trying to work on business. And, you know, like I said, while I love my career, I wasn't ready to hang it up. But, you know, I had so much. I'm trying to build $1 billion brand, and that requires full-time plus. So that's kind of where I was.
Directional Force, right?
Directionalforce.com.
Performance trademark. It says Vapor Element. What's that all about?
Well, that's just, we manufacture over 400 items, so it's a complete lifestyle brand. We manufacture everything from sports bras to Vapor Element hats, which are waterproof. They're floatable. They provide excellent UV protection, so if you're at the beach, you can pour water over them. The water's going to roll off. You know, all the way to normal hats to, you know, your normal snapbacks to UV 400 polarized sunglasses. A complete lifestyle brand, but also you can get your workouts through the Force Multiplier magazine, which is free from the homepage of directionalforce.com. We have U.S. Olympians, nutritionists, provide subject matter experts that provide a lot of material that, you know, it's free just on the Force Multiplier magazine. So, like I said, I want to try to, the main thing I want for my brand is just like I told you a minute ago, I'm not the smartest guy. The way I've gotten to where I'm at is just through a die-hard perseverance. You know, motivation comes and goes. Discipline is what carries you through, and perseverance is what wins the day. And, you know, I've had plenty of chances to quit everything in my life, as most of us do, but, and I think I'll go back to the LAPD for instilling that die-hard perseverance in me. I just won't quit. So I've burned the boats on this, so it's either we win or we die.
That's right.
So there's no retreat, yeah.
Which was my next question, is that what you learned about yourself, or what have you learned about business? In other words, if I were to put you back in day one, right, when you started Directional Force, and here we are having this conversation, what's been like the biggest challenge, or what have you learned about yourself? What do you think?
I've had just so many challenges. Like I was telling you, I won't say the name, but I had $1 billion company. You know, if you start to make headway in a certain area, the big big dogs will come because you're taking a piece of their pie.
Got it.
And they'll try to keep you in litigation for nonsense, never aiming to, you know, they'll threaten to sue you in federal court, never wanting to do that, but just keeping you tied up in legal fees for nonsense. And, you know, that's shocking to me. I don't understand the character of people that could actually do that. You know, like I said, I'm trying to motivate people to motivate others. I love it when I'm motivated by somebody. If I watch David Goggins' video and I get pumped up and it makes me want to go run 10 miles. You know what I mean?
Bro, it makes you want to, I think I saw one with the vest up the hill, bro. Yeah. Doing sprints.
Yeah, I just, like I said.
You got me almost, I'm thinking I play soccer on Sundays, but I don't do that, bro.
Well, that's the thing. And also, I'll just mention this real quick. Like, as we age, man, you know, after 30 years old, people don't sprint again. It's like 98% of people never sprint again. And on Team USA this last year, there was a 92-year-old man that won his age category in the 100.
Wow.
92 years old. I believe incorporating fast twitch muscle fiber is an anti-aging secret. And if you can sprint and do anything to stay explosive, you're going to age less, or you're going to age slower, and you're going to be explosive. Your posture is going to be better, and you're going to have that quick explosive strength. You know that if you, a lot of times when elderly people fall, they don't have the strength, they don't have that fast twitch capability to brace themselves like we do, right? Like you start to fall, and then they break their hips. So, if anything, if I can tell anybody anything, is just do activities, do workouts to try to incorporate as much fast twitch muscle fiber as you possibly can.
And fitness has been something that you started even when you were in LAPD? Yeah,
so, you know, I got into some use of forces, you know, I'll go all the way back to, you know, my early years where we talked about BJJ earlier.
Yes.
If you come up against somebody who's really skilled, or they were a high school wrestler, let's say, and they're on meth, and they have a very high pain tolerance, it will humble you really quick.
Right.
And so number one, I wanted to do it for my own safety. I wanted to be as fit, as fast, as strong as I possibly could be. Not only for my own safety, but I didn't want to be a liability to the officers on my watch. I didn't want to be a liability to other cops. So that's why it was so important to me. And also just for the mental health aspect. If you have a little bit of anxiety, if you have stress in your life, as a cop, there's nothing better you can do than to work out.
Yeah.
It's nature's Xanax. When you work out and you release those endorphins, and especially if you get it done first thing in the morning, you feel like the rest of the day's easy.
Yeah.
And it does something to your mind that fights depression. And so that's why, like I said, that's why I was a big proponent of it, and that's why it's a lifestyle that I live by to this day.
Yeah,
so.
no. Do you recommend taking an afternoon nap? Because I got to get my nap time in.
They say 10 minutes. They say 10 to 10 to 30. They say is really good for brain health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking with you, bro, because since I've been retired, which is so highly recommended, don't you feel as though, and you can relate to this, you feel as though you're just not really in a hurry?
I don't, man.
Right, you wake up, well, and I'm sure you can relate to this. You wake up in the morning. I always wake up like 5 or 6 because it's just nature, right? It's just natural. I've been doing that for like 30 years. And so I get my cup of coffee, I got to watch Get Up at 5, ESPN. I'm a sports junkie just like you. And I hit the gym. I got to be there by 7:30 because anything after like 8 or 9, that Gold's Gym where I go, dude, it's going to be crowded. And then after that, man, you know what? I really don't have to be somewhere. So, and this, life of a law enforcement officer, is what I'm trying to say is you always feel like you have to play catch up with time.
Yeah.
Because you're always structured to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of good, but it's great when you don't have that obligation. What do you think?
I hope I can get there one day. I'm actually working harder now than I've ever worked in my entire life, unfortunately.
Well, you're running your own, you're an entrepreneur, of course.
And it's like there's a lot that falls on my plate. So I'm really looking forward to the point in my life where I can delegate more and be able to say, hey, I don't have anywhere to be. I want to go here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to happen, my friend. It really, really is. Okay, worst incident in your career?
I'd probably have to say my partner and I were working Ned, and it was like later in the afternoon, and I thought, hey man, let's get a quick warrant, and we'll call it a day. Quick, easy felony. And we saw a gangster walking down the sidewalk, and we thought, hey man, let's just run them and see what's up. Let's make contact and run them and see what's up. So as we turned around, it was about 6:30 in the evening, and you know how the sun is in your window at that. So as I was driving back,
you had that glare?
You had that strong glare right in your window. He'd actually made it a little farther than I thought. I didn't want to put us in that situation. I was driving. He'd actually made it a little farther down the sidewalk than I thought, and he was actually stepping off the sidewalk. And as we went to make contact, my partner was badging him. He just went to his waistband, and he pulled out his .380, and so it was on from there. So just training experience, and I'll just throw this in really quick. One of the things I learned just by talking to people in SIS is most of the stuff we do is going to be from a car. You really have to pay attention to where your gun's sitting when you have to draw from immediately and get out of that car. SIS uses a seat gun. I had a tactic, and a lot of people talk shit about it, but it worked for me. When I was in the car, I would take my holster out, and I would put it in my jeans in my pocket right here. And so I was able to get to my gun really quick. So you just have to kind of run through those scenarios in your head. Like if you got to roll out of that car and you got to start putting rounds on somebody, how's it going to work? Yeah. So I was able to, as soon as I identified that, I remember white T-shirt. I see the black handgun against that white T-shirt, and so my mind is like, you gotta stop this, right? So you have to take action. So I get out of the car. I don't even put the car in park. The car's still on a slow roll. And before I even knew what pillar fighting was, just common sense and the angle of where the suspect was, I was able to go over the A pillar and put some rounds on him pretty quick in the gun fight. And my partner was able to put a couple from close contact on him, and that was pretty much it. By the time I actually got the car in park, you go back, my casings are going to be a little farther down the road, right? So FID thought, this guy's full of shit. Like, supposedly it took place here
and it ended
and
up.
my casings are back there. And, so I had to go through the whole scenario.
You have some explaining to do.
I got a lot of explaining to do. And then We actually did get dinged for that in the board because, you know, we didn't handcuff the suspect, but one of those rounds had hit his arm, so it was going to come off. It was just a couple tendons. So sometimes you have to, I know that's the letter of the law, but sometimes under those scenarios, maybe, you know, maybe it could be a little more lenient.
Yeah, you know, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. But what I would say, something along those lines, is it's almost as if, even though in your mind you're doing the right thing, or you're thinking about doing the right thing, and you and I can agree that the average OIS is less than 2 seconds around there. You know, I feel and I know that I'm doing the right thing, but yet I'm going to get dinged for something so minor. For something.
And it is what it is, but I just felt like I said at the time, like I was conscious of what I was supposed to do, but under the scenario and out of respect for, you know, the situation at hand, it's still a human being. You know, we made that choice. Yeah. And so, like I said, you can ding me for that. I'll take it.
Well, Chris, you know what? Hey, man, we're close to the end. I really appreciate you sharing your journey, and we're going to get to learn a lot of you, right? You know, LAPD, you know, thank God, blessed. We have 1.2 million followers, and I'm blessed and I'm thankful for that. And LAPD, shout out, you guys are watching from top to bottom, which I appreciate. What I like to leave with is any advice that you have for anyone that wants to come on the job to become a cop. What kind of advice you have for them, bro?
You know what they tell you when you start the academy? They said, hey, look around you because 20 years is going to go by, but like before you know it. And it's so damn true. Like, you know, you and I were talking about Kevin Bonilla earlier. I went to lunch with KB and my buddy Pat Hoffman the other day, and we had old pictures and stuff we were sharing. And, you know, some of those capers that KB shared some pictures with were 2006. That's going to be 20 years in next year.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't realize it. You're like, I would just say, slow down and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times I want to promote, I want to do this. Just enjoy being a cop, man. You're a cop with the greatest law enforcement agency that the world has known. You truly are a last centurion, and enjoy it. Enjoy wearing that badge and enjoy calling yourself a Los Angeles police officer, because it doesn't last forever. And, you know, so enjoy it while you have it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Before I wrap it up, I got to give a shout out to our boy KB, because we talked earlier about how much success LAPD has afforded us. I can tell you from a soccer lens, because I'm a soccer dude, you know, that was life since I was 4 years old from Peru. Me and KB, man, that was my dude. That dude has given me so many assists, and I had so much fun playing with him. Certified baller. Love you, KB, you know. And
that dude is he's just a natural born freaky athlete.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And he was a lot of fun. You know, sometimes, you know, when you have teammates, someone like real serious, that's that one dude that loves to have fun, and he's a baller dude, and I had so much fun playing with him. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming,
brother.
bro.
I appreciate it.
You and I are connected to the hip because of LAPD for sure, and I wish you so much success with your company, and if there's anything that I can do to help you, I'm here for you. We're going to wrap it up. Like always, please be safe out there, and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.